The News 4 Rundown starts now.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the News 4 Rundown. I'm Sean Yancey. It is Tuesday, May 12th. Here's a look at some of the stories we're following for you tonight. Coming up, the latest on Virginia Democrats' Hail Mary appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court to allow the recently voter-approved congressional maps to stand, where things stand at this hour, and the likelihood of a decision in favor of Republicans in the state. Plus, from Facebook friends to a life-saving match, how a local woman's search for a kidney donor led to a rekindled friendship and a second chance. And now that the Wizards have the #1 overall pick in this year's NBA draft, we'll take a closer look at the top college prospects who could be coming to play right here in Washington. Up first tonight, 2 people in Maryland and 1 person in Virginia are being monitored for potential exposure to the hantavirus outbreak after that outbreak aboard a cruise ship. According to the CDC, at least 3 people who were on board the ship have died, and at least 11 cases have been connected to that ship. News 4's Dominique Moody spoke with some local public health experts today and shares what you need to know about the virus.
As global health leaders work to trace and contain what's known as a hantavirus that started on board a cruise ship, at least 2 Maryland residents and 1 Virginia resident are all being monitored for potential exposure.
This particular virus, called the Andes hantavirus, usually found in the South America or in the South American countries. It is a virus that's known to be a zoonotic infection.
In this case, mice and rats are the source for the virus, according to the CDC. A human may contract the virus through an enclosed space with an infected rodent, according to infectious disease experts.
The human-to-human transmission of the virus located within the United States is very low.
Dr. Meti Kano is an infectious disease doctor with Kaiser Permanente.
The cruise ship was the perfect storm, if I could say that way, for this virus to spread from person to person.
The outbreak started on board a Honda's cruise that departed from Argentina. Public health experts believe 2 people came in contact with an infected rodent before getting on the ship. Here locally, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia Departments of Health say they are all monitoring the situation.
We are taking all the right steps, I think, to control the situation to the extent that we can and prevent any infection or transmission to others. I don't think there's a general recommendation for someone who has not been exposed or is not around someone who is in a case to wear a mask. That's certainly a choice for people.
Dr. Lori Furlano is Virginia State epidemiologist and says the incubation time for this virus can be much longer than others.
It can range from 4 days to, I think the longest it's ever been documented is 42 days. So it is a long incubation period. So that's the time period between someone who was exposed to when they become sick.
The symptoms can include fatigue, fever, muscle aches, and many patients may experience dizziness, chills, and abdominal problems. But the #1 message to the public:
the risk to the general public does remain low right now. I do think that VDH and the public health community is well prepared to respond to this.
In the district, Dominique Moody, News 4.
All right, here's what else we are following for you tonight. The Department of Justice announced 18 charges against the operator of the Dali cargo ship that crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. The crash caused the bridge to collapse and killed 6 people. The Justice Department indicted the international companies Synergy Marine, Synergy Maritime, and the ship's technical superintendent. Charges include conspiracy to defraud the United States and misconduct or neglect of ship officers that resulted in death. The Maryland man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador last year was back in federal court today. The Trump administration is once again trying to send Kilmar Abrego Garcia to Liberia instead of Costa Rica, where he has already agreed to go. But after a hearing that lasted more than an hour today, there was no change. A temporary injunction is still in place that bars the government from deporting Abrego Garcia. 2 construction workers were hurt after a roof collapsed at the Hagerstown First Church of God. Crews were setting wooden trusses on the roof on a new property when workers started hearing cracking noises, and the whole thing just came down. 2 people were trapped but were able to partially free themselves before rescue teams arrived. Those 2 workers went to the hospital. Paramedics evaluated a third. Everyone is expected to be okay. And workers started preliminary surveys and testing on President Trump's 250-foot-tall arch in the district. It will sit between the Lincoln Memorial and Arlington National Cemetery. The design received early approval from the Commission of Fine Arts, whose members were all appointed by Trump. A group of veterans and an historian filed a lawsuit to block the construction. Today is the point of no return for the ongoing Virginia redistricting battle. The State Department of Elections told the courts the debate needed to be settled today. That's because they need time to prepare for the upcoming election. To do that, election officials need to know whether they're using the old map or a new map that Virginia voters approved just last month. But last week, Virginia Supreme Court said no to that new map, and now Democrats are asking the U.S. Supreme Court to weigh in. Northern Virginia reporter Drew Wilder walks us through how we got here.
Unless something changes, we Virginians will use the same congressional district map we have in place right now. Democrats are hoping something changes, though, and they've asked the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts, to make that change now. Let's travel back in time, all the way back to last Friday, when the Virginia Supreme Court struck down the new congressional maps that could have flipped 4 red House seats blue. The state Supreme Court ruled that the General Assembly violated the state constitution when passing the constitutional amendment that would allow a new map to be drawn. It was all a timeline issue. The Constitution says the General Assembly must pass an amendment in one session. Then there must be what's called an intervening election. This is a regular election that's meant to give voters a chance to evaluate state delegates or senators based on their stance of the amendment. Then after that election, the General Assembly must pass the same amendment a second time. The state Supreme Court's opinion said the intervening election had already started before the first passage of the amendment, citing the start of early voting. But Democrats argue that Election Day, not early voting, is the date that's required by law.
Every step we took was vetted by our nonpartisan Division of Legislative Services based on existing Supreme Court precedent, existing state law, existing federal law. And the Supreme Court has come up with this new definition of an election, which nobody's ever heard of before, and to basically invalidate an election, which is just very disappointing.
So it's not common for the Supreme Court of the United States to weigh in on something like this because it's a state constitutional question. But Democrats argue that there are 2 federal issues that SCOTUS needs to settle. Number one, state Dems say the state Supreme Court misinterpreted the federal definition of the word election, which, remember, is critical to the amendment timeline issue. The second issue that Democrats raise is a balance of powers question, suggesting that the state Supreme Court was partisan and out of its lane by overturning the will of voters and the action of the General Assembly.
But one of the reasons the Virginia Supreme Court issued their decision so late, in my mind, is because they wanted to preclude any response by the General Assembly or any appeal to their decision, which again shows me that this was a very politically driven decision to overturn the will of millions of Virginians. So these are unprecedented times, and certainly I'm not going to be surprised if the General Assembly of Virginia responds in unprecedented ways and very forcefully.
Do you think it's a pretty safe bet that we're going to be voting on the maps that are currently in place this year?
I believe we'll be voting on the maps as they are this year, but you never know. I think the appeal has merit, and I think the General Assembly still has some options.
Chief Justice John Roberts handles emergency appeals from a region that includes Virginia, and the Chief Justice has instructed state Republicans to file their legal response no later than 5 p.m. Thursday. I've reached out to the State Department of Elections to ask if its so-called point of no return is actually in stone or if they're holding off. So far, I haven't heard back. Back to you.
Drew. Thank you, Drew. By this time tomorrow night, we're expecting rain all across the region. Storm Team 4 Chief Meteorologist Doug Kammer is tracking just how much we could actually receive.
And that's right, a beautiful day today all up and down the eastern seaboard here. But back to the west, tracking a storm system in towards the Great Lakes that'll work its way across our area tomorrow, giving us a good chance of showers and thunderstorms. We'll talk about that. Cool weather again, and then a big warm up just in time for your weekend. See you back here in a minute.
I'm Julie Carey in Winchester. As a sheriff's deputy and food pantry volunteer, Dan DePalma is the one used to helping others. But now his neighbors are looking for help for him after fire destroyed his house and everything in it. I'll tell you what happened here and about the special fund his neighbors have set up.
A Facebook post helped save a Virginia mother's life. News 4's Un Yang tells us how the woman's personal plea for a kidney donor reconnected two old friends and the groundbreaking robotic surgery that helped speed up her recovery.
My name is Debbie Winkfield. I've been dealing with kidney disease in my family for at least 5 generations.
It's a family legacy Debbie Winkfield never asked for, and last year came to a turning point when the 63-year-old from Shenandoah Valley was told she needed a new kidney. More than 100,000 Americans are on the national transplant waiting list, and 17 people die each day waiting for a donor. So Debbie turned to social media for help.
I made a private Facebook page. I invited just 19 people to that page because I'm very private and I live in a tiny town, and I didn't want the wrong information to get out and rumors to start.
Weeks later, she received the call she was hoping for, a life-saving answer from someone she never saw coming.
That's when I learned that a donor had come forward. Turned out to be a friend from way back. We both served in the United States Navy.
Her name is Laura Boer, a friend she hadn't seen in 40 years, now living in Ohio.
I've been following Debbie on Facebook, and I think she has a wonderful life. And I thought, my goodness, this would be horrible if she lost her life because someone needs to donate a kidney. So I said, I think I'm going to do this. I wonder what this involves.
The two served together aboard the USS Sierra, building a friendship through service and shared adventures.
We stood duty and watched together aboard the ship, and off the ship we would ride bikes together and go hiking and different things that we enjoyed. That's how our friendship developed.
Eventually, life took them in different directions and they lost touch until now, reconnecting first on Facebook and then again on the day before their surgery.
We didn't even really speak to each other until the night before the surgery when we met up with her and her family. We had dinner together, and then the next morning we were here at MedStar Georgetown at 5:30 a.m. to check in for surgery.
Debbie and I sat across from each other and talked the whole time. I don't even think I ate half my meal. So it was really cool to be able to just jump right in like we'd been friends and spent time together all those years.
Debbie's transplant would also mark a milestone. She became the first kidney recipient at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital to undergo a robotic kidney transplant.
We control the robot. It's not like we press a button and then the robot is off to go. The robotic arms, they give us precision because there's no real tremor, and they're very fine and small, so it kind of helps us do a finer job. We see much better. All in all, it's great.
Dr. Talal Al-Khod was the surgeon at the controls and says the new technology means fewer complications and faster healing.
The patients can get a transplant with smaller incisions. They stay in the hospital for a shorter period of time. They recover quicker. They get back to life quicker. It's a very big difference compared to what we see the patients go through when we do conventional open surgery.
When I look back on it, I don't remember pain. I recovered very well. I feel great. Couldn't ask for a better procedure or a better journey.
Just weeks after surgery, Debbie was back on the golf course, doing what she loves and grateful for the friend who made it all possible.
What an incredible person she is for offering this incredible gift. God was working back in 1985 and I didn't even know it. You know, he's had his hand in all of this.
What an incredible story they have. By the way, doctors say robotic kidney transplant surgery can reduce the risk of complications and speed up recovery, but it's not the right fit for everyone, and it may not be an option for some people because of their anatomy. As for Debbie, she's doing great and thankful to her friend who gave her a second chance at life. Debbie and Laura plan to reconnect again this summer on vacation. Hope you enjoyed today. We know tomorrow is coming. It's the start of a couple of changes, right?
Yeah, and we need the rain tomorrow, so that's a really good thing. Okay. But I don't think it's going to be all day. I think tomorrow morning looks fine. Yep. I think lunchtime for most of us looks good. Okay. And then we'll see the showers move in. But today was gorgeous. I mean, still, look at this. Just amazing what we have out there right now. Current temperature sitting at 70 degrees. Here we are, 7 o'clock hour, still sitting at 70. Yeah, that's quite nice. Winds out of the south at 10 miles an hour. That will keep temperatures warmer overnight tonight than they were last night. I mean, last night, many of you got into the 30s, and now we're in the low to mid 70s. So 71 in Manassas right now, 73 down towards Fredericksburg, 69 back towards Martinsburg. So a beautiful evening across our area, and no rain to speak of. Clear skies, of course, means no rain, but back to the west. Well, we're tracking the cloud cover and the rain making its way through parts of the Great Lakes right now. You can see that spin in the upper levels of the atmosphere working its way down. This is the trailing frontal boundary that'll work its way through our area during the day tomorrow. That'll give us a good chance for that rain. Let's time it out for you. First of all, as we move on through the overnight hours into early tomorrow morning, temperatures will be 10 to 20 degrees warmer than they were this morning. Kind of amazing, really. So we're not talking about any frost. We did have some frost out there this morning, but watch what happens during the noon hour. We start to see the showers move in, especially back towards the west, and then by around 1, 2 o'clock, starting to move towards the metro region. Now, we could see some heavier downpours with this, but the heaviest rain, I think, comes later. We see showers through the evening hours, maybe even during the evening rush. Could make for some problems on some of the area roadways. But look back towards the west here at 6 o'clock. Some heavier downpours. They move right through the city around 8, 9, 10 o'clock. And then by 11, they're just off towards the east. So that's the best chance to see the strongest of the storms would be tomorrow night after, say, about 5, 6 o'clock in most of the area. So something we'll continue to watch. I'm not anticipating much in the way of strong or severe storms, but I am anticipating some heavier downpours. And that would be very beneficial because, once again, we need the rain. 74 tomorrow for a high, 66 breezy. Cool day on Thursday. A lot of cloud cover, especially early in the day. So not the best day, but not terrible. 73 on Friday. That's a fantastic Friday. Saturday looks amazing. Look at Sunday, even better at 86. And then we get to some real heat. Monday and Tuesday, back to 90 degrees for the first time since the middle of April. How about that? And then we'll see a chance of showers and storms to end next week.
Thank you, Doug. All right, imagine at the age of 72 losing nearly everything. It happened to a retired Fairfax County deputy. In March, his home burned to the ground. Dan DePalma's neighbors told us he spent his career helping others, so now they're trying to help him rebuild. Northern Virginia Bureau Chief Julie Carey takes a look at the special fund they're using to fill the gap left in his insurance coverage.
This is what Dan DePalma's home used to look like. He bought it just after retiring from the Fairfax County Sheriff's Office in 2005. He says it was after midnight on March 21st when he was awakened by his alarm system.
I went downstairs, kicked the garage door open, and I was just hit with a ball of flames. The seat of the recliner, the cushion, was engulfed, totally engulfed, and the flames were shooting up to the ceiling and billowing out.
Dan says by the time he fled out a back door and went around to the front, flames were already through the roof. By the time volunteer fire crews reached his mountainside home outside Winchester, it was too late. All his belongings destroyed, and his cat, Chloe, killed in the fire. What most hurts?
Besides my cat, I would say all the hand-me-down stuff I got from my parents, all my memorabilia from the Sheriff's Department's all gone. So there's nothing left.
One of the first people Dan called in those early morning hours was his neighbor, Beth Shalap.
It just really was gut-wrenching to see what he was going through.
Gut-wrenching, yes, but Dan wants to rebuild here. It's easy to see why. Mountain views, hundreds of irises and other plants he's tended to in retirement, and these beautiful stone walls. Dan built them himself.
So everything you see here, I actually put here with my own two hands. That's the hard thing about if I was to move.
But Dan's discovered his insurance policy settlement will not cover the full cost of a rebuild.
And so his house burnt to the ground, and it was insured for what it was originally insured for 21 years earlier.
And that's where Beth jumped in, researching and setting up a fundraiser on a special site for first responders called Fund the First.
He is so deserving. I mean, he spent his entire adult life serving the public.
Beth's hoping the fund takes off. Dan says he's grateful for the clothes provided by friends at the nearby food pantry where he volunteers and money other residents have collected. Beth says it took some arm twisting to get him to agree to the fund.
I feel funny about even doing this interview, but I'm usually the one helping people, not the one needing help. And unfortunately, that's what I need now is help.
Dan is hoping to have his home rebuilt in time for winter. In the meantime, one thing here remains unchanged. His American flag stands sentry next to the house, somehow flying undamaged through it all. Near Winchester, I'm Julie Carey, News 4.
Well, after his experience, Dan DePalma's advice for other homeowners: be sure to update your insurance policy each year to make sure it's covering the current replacement value. We'll stay right there. News 4, The Rundown. We'll be right back. All right, we're back now talking the future of the Commander Stadium at the RFK site, specifically how you will get to and from events there. Newly released Metro documents show Metro is not recommending building another station on the site, but the transit agency has a warning. If no transportation improvements are made, 2 hours. That's how long Metro said it could take you to get home after a Commanders game at the new stadium.
I'm disappointed they're not going to move forward with and don't want to pursue a new Metro rail station. I still think that's a good idea, not just for the stadium, but for the development of the entire community.
Metro said the price tag for needed improvements are $300 to $400 million. Well, the Washington Wizards are the talk of the town right now. They have the #1 pick in next month's NBA draft. JP Finley spoke with Hall of Fame's hoop reporter David Aldridge to get his thoughts on who the Wizards might select and if that player can finally help this team become a winning franchise.
Sunday's news that the Washington Wizards got the #1 pick in the upcoming NBA draft is super exciting, but now the real work starts. The NBA Draft Combine is going on in Chicago right now. So we caught up with David Aldridge from The Athletic, also a DC native that knows what this pick means to this city. And for DA, this is going to come down to a 2-horse race at #1. AJ DeBonsa out of BYU or Darren Peterson from Kansas.
Both of them are uniquely talented offensive players. I do think it comes down to DeBonsa and Peterson. I know that they've liked DeBonsa for a while. That is not me guessing. And so it doesn't mean that they definitely are going to take him, but I know they like him a lot. So you have to evaluate both of them. You have to look at Peterson's year at Kansas, and he put up numbers, but he was out a lot with injuries, and he said it was because he was taking creatine and cramping up, and you have to investigate all that, right? And you have to do all the due diligence in the background on each of these guys. And then it's a matter of which one you think has the absolute highest ceiling as a player in the NBA. And again, at least now, and this is I can only go by what I know now, I do think DeBonsa is the guy that they really are leaning towards.
Let's be real. It's no secret the Wiz have been in rebuild mode for 3 years, ever since Michael Winger and Will Dawkins took over. But for Aldridge, this pick is the culmination of that rebuild.
I can tell you they've been pointing towards the 26 draft since they got here 3 years ago. This has been their North Star for a while. I've been around these guys for 3 years now, and they do have some sense of how they think about team building. I think they want to walk their card up on draft night and say, this is the guy the Washington Wizards believe in the most, which is why I don't think they'll trade back. I mean, there's a couple other reasons why I don't think they'll trade back, but I think the main reason is they want to affirmatively state, this is our guy. They have viewed the 26th draft as kind of the fulcrum on which the franchise turns and starts to become relevant again. And you can't win in the NBA and you can't challenge for championships if you don't have a dynamic guy at the top of your roster. And so you have to have a guy like that. And this draft gives them a chance to get that guy.
Whatever the Wizards do at #1, for fans, it's hope. It's hope for playoff basketball. It's hope for relevant basketball, something we haven't seen in a while, but are ready to root for. Covering the Wizards in D.C., I'm JP Finley.
It is hope for some wins. All right, NBC4 is the place to be for playoff basketball. Game 5 of the Western Conference semifinals is coming up next. The series between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the San Antonio Spurs is tied right now 2 games apiece. Tip-off just minutes away. And then after the game, Jim and I will get you caught up on all of today's big stories. That is coming up tonight on News 4 at 11. Thank you so much for joining us for the News 4 Rundown on this Tuesday night. Have a great night, everybody. And again, we'll see you right back here after the game.